NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams remained stranded aboard the International Space Station.
From Jakarta, Indonesia.
Nigerian ginger farmers struggle after disease outbreak. African comic gaining popularity. Two NASA astronauts stranded in space.
And live public updates powered by VOA, Voice of America.
Nigeria is one of the world's leading producers of ginger. A massive outbreak of fungal disease, though, last year caused millions of dollars of damage. The Nigerian government has launched an emergency recovery intervention to help the ginger farmers.
Last year, Nigerian farmer Paul Solomon Abui planted 1 hectare of ginger on this farm in Kachia in northwest Kaduna State. But in July, the ginger blight disease struck without warning and none of his rhizomes made it.
I can expect in over $400 or $500 that I was expected. But at the end, nothing.
The disease causes the rotting of underground rhizomes and makes the plant wither. Like Abui, thousands of ginger farmers here are struggling to cope with the losses.
Some die. Some fell sick psychologically. Like us, we feel it psychologically. We just maintain like something did not happen.
Nigeria is one of the world's top producers of ginger, competing with India and China. In 2021, the country produced nearly 1/6 of the global supply. Authorities estimate the outbreak cost about $6.5 million in losses and affected roughly 7,000 farmers, mainly around Nigeria's ginger hub in southern Kaduna State. This month, about 5,000 farmers began receiving seedlings, fertilizers, and agrochemicals from the government. Authorities are also teaching local farmers better farming methods.
It's a two-pronged approach. What we are currently doing would bring about. One is that they are going on a crop rotation for their livelihood, sustenance to continue. What we've provided is for them to be able to plant maize and sorghum. On the other hand, we're also very hopeful that crop rotation would be able to break the chain of this disease.
Ginger farmer Daniel Beatrice benefited from the government scheme but hoped it had come sooner.
We expect those things to come early, around April, so that by when you early planting give good result.
Officials say proceeds from ginger exports could add $6.3 billion to the country's economy by 2030. But farmers say with limited government intervention, they could be waiting for a long time if they get lucky at all. Timothy Obiezu, VOA News, Kachia, Kaduna State, Nigeria.
Influenced by foreign characters and history, African comics are gaining a popularity. Nigerian female comic illustrators are attempting to challenge factors that have limited them by blending their creativity with African rich history.
Lights, camera, action. But it's not a regular movie. It's the adaptation of Nigerian comic artist and filmmaker Uren Amadi's African superhero character Shutterbird, created in 2019. The comic was inspired by Amadi's personal struggles and triumphs when she lost her father, a Nigerian journalist, as a teenager.
She came up with a concept of using her father's camera, the lens. That's where we got the shutter from, to make a kind of sophisticated device that can freeze the enemies, that can freeze the villain.
The camera gives Shutterbird super strength, speed, reflex, night vision, and healing ability. Amadi says it portrays the strength of many African girls and the solace she found in using her father's camera.
I thought it was going to be good to make something very indigenous based on the fact that we don't have indigenous comic characters.
Amadi's creation is part of a growing number of indigenous works by African creators promoting local content. For decades, African comics have struggled with Western dominance and models. creators like Emanuela Daniel say colonial history and a lack of adequate data on African history are to blame. During a competition in 2021, she entered an illustration of the Nigerian warrior Queen Amina.
Our history, because a lot of that has been lost over time, and many people now do not even know both male and female heroes, especially the female heroes from time past. It's almost becoming extinct. A lot of what we know as art is heavily influenced by Western culture.
Nigerian illustrator Mercy Ajiboye says working as a female comic creator is not easy.
Yeah, it's a thing, and even clients, some clients, once they hear your voice and you're a female, start pricing you down, or they even say they're not interested. I would go to a print shop to have it printed and framed, and they would say my signature and ask, is this really your work? To just assume a man painted it and I just put my signature there.
With a growing community of talented artists, writers, and publishers, Nigerians are gaining traction, and many more African superheroes like Urena Amadi or the Shutterbird are expected to emerge. Timothy Obiezu, VOA News, Abuja, Nigeria.
2 NASA astronauts are stranded in space with no return date set. Plus, a new climate satellite launches into orbit, and a human-made creepy crawlers look to explore Mars. Let's take a look at the space.
2, 1, ignition, engine full power, and liftoff. Go SpaceX, go Falcon Heavy, go NOAA, go NASA, and go you.
We begin this week on a launch pad at Florida's Kennedy Space Center. It was there that SpaceX launched the latest climate satellite from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA. The Geostationary Operational Environmental Satellites, or GOES for short, aim to track local weather events like hurricanes, thunderstorms, and wildfires and monitor their effects on public safety. NOAA calls the addition of this fourth and final satellite of the GOES series the Western Hemisphere's most sophisticated weather-observing and environmental monitoring system.
Ignition.
But the big news from space this week is what didn't happen. NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams remained stranded aboard the International Space Station. When the duo of former Navy test pilots rode aboard Boeing's Starliner capsule on June 5th, issues already plagued the craft.
We noticed a little bit of an increase in the helium leak rate that we talked about pre-launch. We could see at the tank level when the system is opened, essentially you're bleeding helium from the tank all through the flight. And we could see that leak rate was a little higher than we had thought pre-flight.
Helium is essential to Starliner's maneuverability. It's used to pressurize the fuel lines of the capsule's thrusters. That initial leak on Earth from a faulty rubber seal about the size of a shirt button preceded others that happened mid-flight. And then 5 of the capsule's 28 thrusters went down. Astronauts were able to revive 4 of them, but NASA is still analyzing the problems and has not set a return date. Despite the setbacks, Boeing remains one of NASA's top 2 candidates to shuttle astronauts on and off the planet alongside SpaceX. Finally this week, a creepy crawler designed for legwork that's out of this world. It's called ReachBot, and researchers at California's Stanford University say this walking modern take on the classic rover could open the door for cave exploration on the Moon or Mars.
Just imagine them as a 3D tape measure. They coil up really small and they can extend really long. And then at the end of each boom, you have grippers and maybe additional sensing element where you can see where you're grasping more closely, and also gripper actually interacting with the surface.
Researchers say sensors aboard ReachBot enable it to identify graspable surfaces and keep tension, like the fingers of your hand. Following a successful test in the Mojave Desert, researchers say they're hopeful of one day sending the machines into places robots have never been. Arash Arabasadi, VOA News.
The Voice of America, VOA.
We'll be seeing you soon on M-Line Public Updates powered by VOA Voice of America. My name is mirzawardana.